I've talked about it a lot, and there are a lot of channels that talked about it a lot about what do you do when you like something and the other person doesn't? How do you reconcile? Well, let me talk for a little bit about when you like something and you just want to share that. How do you do that effectively? Hey there, this is Perch. That was a terrible intro. I imagine that people are like, oh, that doesn't sound like an interesting topic at all. But let's see if we can make it interesting because I think that this phenomenon is something that happens a lot in comics, and people don't necessarily know what to do with it. And that's the idea of like, you pick up a comic, you really like it. It's got something in there that's kind of interesting for you. You keyed off the story in some way. It's just good. So, how do you get that comic into the hands of other people? How do you share that effectively with people? And that's become more of a minefield because there's a lot of kind of built in. I mean, there's always been a Marvel versus DC kind of feud that's gone on with fans who just like one over the other and won't hear it if you say that there's good content from the other company. But now that that feud has kind of bubbled up and gotten bigger, where there's people who hate modern comics, like the older comics, hate certain creators for reasons have nothing to do with the comics. Have there's just a lot more complexity now to when you have a comic and you want to share it. And this recently came up with X-Men for me in that Hickman is relaunching, redoing. He's bringing his style to the X-Men, and I was hoping for this. I was anxious for it. Was very happy with that announcement and very happy with the first issue that came out. And so I was recommending it to people. I'm like, I think this is quite good. You should check it out. You should read it. And it was very hard to get that message across because a lot of fans were either, again, there's some DC fans who just won't touch Marvel, but there's more fans who are just so disenfranchised with the X Men over the last 5 years. Either the run that immediately preceded it with Age of X Men, or stuff that Fraction and Brubaker did years ago, or even there's people who hate Kieran Gillian's run. That's another part of it. And then a lot of hate over the Brian Michael Bendis, young X Men through time and kind of Cyclops is a traitor. That whole world, I'd say, of X Men era has left a lot of people disenfranchised, irritable, and not wanting to pick up the comic. So the trick is, how do you convince them? How do you tell them, no, this is something new. This is actually spiritually feels like the Claremont type days. It feels like a little bit the Grant Morrison days, but more like it feels like that big world building. Major things are happening. Nothing is safe. The mutants are on top. There's this. It just feels like the X-Men of old that we're getting here, and it's a powerful story. You'll like it. But there's I had some people. I was on a show with a guy named Doc, and he here's a guy who's collected. I don't remember now every issue of the X Men, but if not every, a lot. I mean, there's this guy is a big collector of the X Men comics, and he was just enough. Enough is enough. And I think, as I recall, I may be wrong about this, but his tipping point was the X Men. This last relaunch with Matt Rosenberg, Kelly Thompson, Ed Brisson, and this is the X-Men, and then $10 first issue, and then this is Age of X-Men, and here's a bunch of spin-offs and other things, all high priced. And then the announcement of, okay, this is getting relaunched by Hickman. This is our plan all along, and kind of that FU message to the fans of, hey, we told you. Remember we told you how this was going to be a big relaunch, and everything was going to be fixed now, and we were going to put good effort toward it. No, no, no. This is just a stopgap until we could really get things rolling with Hickman. Um, and this guy, this Doc is like, you know what, I'm done. Screw you. You've done it to me too many times. And he was just out. And so we had a good discussion on the show about, hey, I think you should try it out. And he's like, nope, I'm not going to. I'm standing by what I said. And and then a bunch of us are like, no, we were working on him a little bit, but it on two levels it felt weird. One, not Doc's attitude. Doc's attitude is completely understandable. What felt weird was, one, why were we working so hard to promote Marvel's books to somebody that Marvel irritated? That it's a little bit of a strange thing that the company, the actual holder of the IP, the person who makes money from it, the person who is benefiting from readership, is not out there, actively trying to make good with fans and get them back into the fold, but the fans are trying to get the fans to work back into the fold. I guess, I mean, I need a royalty check from from Disney, is what I'm saying. Um, no, I'm completely joking. I don't need a royalty check, but it is interesting that a lot of the promotion of comics and the bringing people in and getting collectors and all that. If you think about it, a lot of that promotion happens from fans to fans rather than the company to fans. And on one level, that's pretty cool. It's organic. It's nice. It's a little bit more authentic, and that is why a community in comics is important. It's why I stress the necessary aspect of a community. A community is what's going to save comics. It's what's going to bring people to the table. It's what's going to bring new readers in. A community is critical, and it's also, on the other hand, I find it disturbing that the actual publisher, the company themselves, do so little for the community, because the community is their free advertising, it's their free marketing, it's their free salespeople. It's what I think over time is the bulk of their sales. I'd love to get some metrics on, say, the Disney Channel and their YouTube channel and the Make My Marvel shows and all the rest. They have these guys, and I met some of these people. The Agent X, I forget. Why do I forget his name? I always say these things in the moment. I don't read off a script, as you can probably all tell. But yeah, when the recording ends, then I get the name, and I always think I should go back and edit that in so I sound smarter. But then I think, why? Who cares about sounding smarter? Anyway, I've said I met a lot of these people. A lot of these people are very nice people. A lot of them are passionate fans. I think this Agent X guy is a passionate, good fan. He is a solid individual. If you meet him, somebody you'd like to have a beer with. But I'd love to have some metrics on those efforts versus kind of organic fan to fan communication efforts, because my strong suspicion, is that it's the fan efforts that are doing more over time to actually sell the books, get things out into the hands of consumers, create consistent subscriber sales. I think that stuff's more effective than the marketing the companies do. And maybe that's just always the way it has to be, because comics is by its nature kind of more of a community driven, creative enterprise. But if that's true, then I think the companies need to pivot, and their marketing efforts and their business efforts need to go more toward helping fans help fans. In other words, you should have a extremely gracious, extremely nice engagement with your fans. And when you find fans that are going to recommend, review, whatever, comics to other fans, you empower them as much as possible. I'm talking, free comps. I'm talking really nice customer service. I'm talking really being aware of who's helping build your company and giving them good tools to do that. I think that's critical, because as I started, it's when lots of us are reading comics every day, and chances are we're finding things we love or we like every day. And with all the content out there, of course, you're going to find something you like. I don't believe the people who say I looked at all the hundreds of comics and nothing appeals to me, nothing. I hate all of it. I don't buy that. I think that's somebody who doesn't read comics in the first place, who just wants to bitch. But there's always something you can find, even if it's one title out of 300. There's one. So when you find that title, being able to promote it, encourage others, bring people, say, hey, I read this story, I liked it, you should read it so we can talk about it, that would be cool. That kind of interaction, I think, is what comics is really made of. And so that's where I think, how do you do it? What are the ways that you can encourage, you can get people connected? And then, as I've been talking about, how do the big companies, the publishers, how does the Image or Marvel or DC or Boom or Dynamite or Antarctic Press or Alterna, how do all of these companies do more to give the fans weapons? Weapons is too negative, but give the fans power to help promote these comics, because that's where the true business lies, I believe. What do you think? Leave me a comment. I would love to hear what you think. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notification. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and thank you for listening.